Welcome to CNT Collectibles. I am C. Hope you are doing well. And this is your Sports Card Chart Blast where we take a look at the price action of our favorite collectibles. Not weekly. Maybe this will be like a monthly thing, so it takes time. I'm kind of bored with it, judging by the views. You're also bored with it. So once in a while, we'll just check in, see what's happening with the markets. And just kind of take it from there. And if this doesn't get more than 30, 40 views again, then I'll just cut it off. I can take a hint. We'll cut it off completely, no problem. But I do want to try and put out something a couple times a week at least. So for the last 30 days, SCI market index, SCI 500 down 4%. So our favorite hobby not doing too well. See if we can pick out a couple winners here and there. Some of the names that have done the best and the worst. We'll just go over each of the four major sports here. So Kurt Schilling, Fred McGriff, Dale Murphy, all having a nice month here. Kurt Schilling up the most, and this is on Hall of Fame speculation. McGriff, Murphy probably have the best chance of getting in. Kurt Schilling just came off the ballot. So what changes in the last year? So you've got some different voters, a smaller voting pool. You've got 16 voters for the contemporary ballot. 12 of them need to vote yes, and he wasn't a steroid guy. So we could have a different thought process on him getting in. We'll see. Ivan Rodriguez, he's already in. And Mariano Rivera, I don't know. What are people thinking on that one? So they're up nicely as well. Trey Turner, Jacob deGrom, some speculation on where he might land. So again, when you're looking at things that don't have earnings or anything like that, you're just looking for some level of relevance. And Jacob deGrom switching teams, signing with the new one could be a big deal. Same with Trey Turner. So as they're in the news, then again, they could have some relevance and enjoy a spike. So deGrom's getting the most interest with 132 sales of his cards over the last month. And so what we did here, what I did is just I want to see at least 20 sales, and I want to see cards that are at least $25. So there's a lot of dollar cards that are doing just fine here. But again, you're looking at the people front and center in the news as the season is over. On-field performance doesn't matter as much. Some of the cards that are getting beaten up, Barry Larkin, no sense on that one here. I would highly recommend checking out his 87 Topps Tiffany. You should be able to get that at a relatively decent price here. Bryce Harper will not be back until the midpoint of next year, undergoing that ACL. He should be able to hit, but the throwing part maybe take a while to get going here, but his value is at a hitter for the most part. A lot of action on his cards here. Miggy Cabrera and Adrian Beltre also getting smoked. So if you remember the previous slide from 10 seconds ago, a lot of the guys that are speculated to get into the Hall of Fame this year, those cards are seeing a nice pop. Well, what do you think happens to Adrian Beltre's cards next year? He'll be a first ballot guy, and in 5 years, Miggy just retired. And so they may present some interesting opportunities here. So football, some of your risers. Tony Pollard's been on fire. Josh Jacobs been one of the best running backs in the league for the most part. A couple of old guys here. Jordan Love getting some love here. So a number of sales of his cards as he looks primed to take over the quarterback position at some point here. Travis Kelce getting some love as well here, and Sam Darnold as he gets a start. And he had a respectable week for the most part. Some of the cards that are getting hammered on the football side of things, Matt Ryan leading the way to the downside. He's kind of a shell of himself here. He's still playing. We found Michael Pittman a ton here. So, but for the most part, he's just becoming a little bit less relevant. Davis Mills and Christian McCaffrey getting a lot of love here, but they're in terms of volume, but their prices continue to drop overall. I feel like those players may present a bit of an opportunity. All right, basketball, Tim Hardaway, Doc Rivers, Gary Payton. No one likes the new guys here. No, they like Darren Fox, I guess, here, but David Robinson. So the old timers showing that they still have some skills, at least in the pricing side of things. Larry Drew, Draymond Green, Scotty Barnes, Bradley Beal, Dikembe Mutombo. Jordan Poole, Cade Cunningham on the downside. Poole and Cunningham, so some couple of young guys not getting any love here. Now their cards are a little bit new, so as those cards come out, and especially the higher end stuff as it gets great, it hits market. You see a lot of there's less volume, and so those prices get batted around pretty easily. So to see them up or down 30-40% a week is not or over a month is not a big deal. Let it settle down until that range kind of compresses a little bit here. So, all right, Jason Robertson, one of the big names in hockey over the last month here. Shout out to our friend Bobbles, who's been on this one for a while. Too bad that Upper Deck was late in getting their hockey cards out. He could have done some more with this before the recent bump, but that's how it goes here. Jack Hughes also getting some love here as he's off to a nice start this season. A lot of the names that are getting hammered. I don't know enough about them, and if you can read that, then there you go. Jason Robertson, probably not related to Jason Robertson at all here, but he's down, not doing as much here. Let's look at some individual players. Baseball, start off with Mike Trout, sitting at the 1,500 level, is held around here for a while. There's been volume all the way down in this one. This is the lower end of the longer in range, and so if you are buying that, yeah, I mean, it seems like a decent price. Again, if it hits $1,000 in the offseason, wouldn't surprise me. But it's got to break this first. We had that spike low and some reference points going back into 2020. This is kind of your $600 to $800 range. So we'll see if it can hang on to this. But it's at the bottom. It's about as good as price that we've had in a while here. So I'm not saying that's the bottom or anything like that, but your risk reward, at least in the intermediate term, sets up pretty well. Bryce Harper. So we didn't like him in the past when those prices were spiking up to a couple $1,000s. Said, you know what, super relevant right now. Let it go. And that would have worked out for the most part. Dropped down to about $700. Now you're sitting at $745, $750. So kind of that $700 price part. If you avoid it up here, good for you. $700. Maybe more of an interesting thing for that Bowman first. All right, Frederick Griff, one of the bigger rises in anticipation of a Hull selection here. This is his PSA 10. Donruss, 86. And top of the range coming off just a little bit. We've been here before. Now it could get a little bit more love overall. The way to play that, I think, is the 86 Leaf. I like the Leaf version of that card here. You can get the PSA 9s for about $100. Might go up a little bit here as we near it, but I think if you're patient on any of these cards right now, after he gets the election, going into next February and then beyond, then those prices should settle into considerably lower prices for the most part here. All right, Miggy Cabrera, kind of the same thing. Why are you getting killed on this one here? His body, his work is pretty amazing, and there's really nothing he can do to his legacy at this point here. So compression and breaking to the downside. So again, that's sub 200 area for that Topps Chrome traded base PSA 9 represents the best points you've seen for a while. Enough buying in this area to probably support those prices. Not sure it gets a whole lot lower for a generational type player, but certainly could. Jacob deGrom base PSA 10. Again, your previous reference point going back to 2020, kind of hanging out there. A lot of volume for the most part. Making, if you're interested in this car, it's only $100. But if you really want to see upside, you want to break this downtrend line for the most part here. So Jacob deGrom's kind of an interesting case here. He's got a couple of Cy Young awards, but he's not going to have the wins, the WAR, or anything like that for the most part to go with it because of injury. So is that enough? He might be the Dale Murphy of pitchers. So you're really the best for a couple years, and then the rest of it's kind of a compiling type stuff here. So still down. See where he winds up, and maybe he can have an excellent finish to his career here. Nolan Arenado. Top of the range coming off just a little bit here. He's a player that probably will be a Hall of Famer, and he presents a nice buying opportunity, especially get around $70 or something like that. So a little thin in here, but a lot of buying in the $70 area. And I think that some people are looking at that card a little bit more closely as they should be here. Lindor, another one here, bottom of the range, couple players that we've talked about here. So getting a little bit of lift off. That's another one, $70. And so a lot of those Hall of Famers with higher print runs in the base card. Maybe 70 is kind of your price on those. Tatis Jr. All right, at some point he's going to come back and probably be really, really good here. And a lot of buying in that 2020 area. Now you're starting to return to that. This is the Bowman Chrome Prospect Auto, sitting around $750, $800 or something like that. So this again, this could be a decent price if he comes back and starts lighting it up next year. And why wouldn't he? That's just kind of what he does. When he's played, now he hasn't played a whole lot, but when he does play, he's a terrific talent here. So that card could see some acceleration. So again, this is kind of your zone here. You are again on that particular card. All right, football, Tom Brady. Kind of an interesting one here. You had kind of your topping formation, which measures down to $5,000 or so. It doesn't have to happen, but if we connect the dots here, then we are looking at psychologically, people thought this was a nice area to start buying, and we're starting to get a little bit of a bump here. So not really because of his play or anything like that. So just again, psychology kind of plays a role in these things here. So we had a buy in 2020 at this level. And here we are again here with a little bit of liftoff. So use that as your line in the sand if you're looking for that card. Sitting around $9,000 or $10,000, I think, as it is. Jordan Love with a monster rip. Couple of purchases there. Again, wait on that one because there's speculation on them. It's a shiny new toy. But at some point, the rubber meets the road, and it may not be good. Justin Fields, a lot of buying. On the hype, had a couple of really excellent weeks, but the Bears aren't going anywhere. Offseason is coming up in a month here. And when he's out of sight, out of mind, maybe a better opportunity around that $300 price to get that card if you are a long-term believer in Justin Fields. And Patrick Mahomes in the Prism Silver. Downtrend remains intact. Have a nice bounce off the bottom of the range. However, selling has happened at this area in the past multiple times here. So again, another one where it's like, all right, if we get a breakout, then you can have some chasing a little bit. All the people that sold in here may want it back, and we'll have to chase it. But in the intermediate, or excuse me, in the immediate term here, right now, top of the range, risk reward is a bit unfavorable. Travis Kelce, another one that had a nice rip here, but it's mostly been sideways action. Although there's a lot more volume in this area than there has been in the recent memory here. So a lot of people are starting to pick up in this card, realizing that here's a Hall of Famer. Maybe this is a inexpensive-ish type stuff here. So a couple bucks cheaper, maybe be a pretty decent purchase on that one here. And Josh Allen continuing his uptrend, but again, was getting a little bit lofty in his play. It's been good, but not number one quarterback in the league type stuff as of late here. And it's kind of broken down. $1,000 seems to be your line in the sand on that one. It's coming up just a little bit, so retesting the underside here. So I might get another crack at 1,000 below that. Then you kind of want to just leave it alone and see what you can do about $700-800. Save yourself a few pennies there on that one here. So all right, some basketball. Michael Jordan and a PSA 8 continues to grind lower, and so sports cards kind of an asset class, and you can subdivide within the other sports and take it from there here. So bottom of the range may be good for a little bit of a pop, but that trend does remain down. And so if we look at LeBron, kind of the same thing, continues to grind lower. So we had a kind of your compression, and then just like a get out around that 15,000, and then it just keeps grinding lower. It had a nice little breakout of a longer term downtrend line, but you know what? That didn't mean anything. Continues to make lower prices here. So $5,300 is where you're currently at, and as you continue to make new lows, it's hard to get super excited. So I don't know where it stops. I just know that the trend remains down. Kobe Bryant 96 Topps Chrome base, top of the range here. So that probably comes off a little bit as well, and joins his fellow old-timer greats or whatever in their downtrend here. Luka Doncic Prism Silver. He's been playing great this year, and it hasn't really mattered. His cards have been largely sideways, going back a ways here, and again, that trend remains down here. So if that breaks, then you're going to start looking at this sub $1,400 or something like that area where there has been a lot of buying, and even that may not be enough. I don't know here, but for the most part, it's kind of like, well, that trend's down. No thanks, I think. So John Morant Prism Silver PSA 10, same thing. Trend is down. Not looking for free or anything like that, but use this as kind of this current price $950 as your line in the sand. Below that, I mean, really haven't had much below that, so who knows where it goes for the most part. But careful on that one. But again, the risk reward does set up somewhat favorably in the near term here. Jason Tatum, bottom of his range. So like a lot of these guys, some of the newer guys at least. They're interesting, but the trends do remain down on that one here. So I'd like to see a lot of volume and accumulation, then we can get a little bit of a pop here. So we'll see how that plays out. Break of the downtrend would be a welcome sign overall here. All right, some hockey. Connor McDavid. Just kind of batting around here, top of the range, bottom of the range, pretty well defined. Now you're kind of sitting in the middle, so not much to do. And honestly, these buys and sells have become fairly quickly for the most part here. They've been one-offs here. So right now, just kind of watch, and if you can get something closer to that, whatever this is, $2,500 or something like that, maybe a better time here. Leon Draisaitl, here's your uptrend. We had him at the bottom of the range. Said, you know what, that could set up pretty well. And that's been the case so far, at least. But there's been some interest here, and we'll see if we can get a little bit more love here. But there's enough buying here, so if this does start to creep upwards a little bit, then I think you'll have people chasing just a little here. Again, hockey seems to have held up relatively well in the scheme of things. Not Jack Hughes, though. He broke his trend, but quickly returned to the scene of the crime. Symmetry to the markets here. Here's a lot of buying down, a lot of buying up. Here you are, back into the bottom end of your range here. So if you're a Jack Hughes guy, you could look for some upside, maybe to $300, which is not insignificant. $250 to $300, not too bad here. And Jason Robertson off to a monster start. His cards are just ripping. So look at his current price, $479. Now maybe this should be $600-700 card, $600-700 card, $800 card, or whatever. It's been there before, but not a lot of buyers on that one. So now you're at a kind of a stopping point, and so we'll see if buyers are willing to step in and continue to press that thing higher. So there's been some decent move, but this may be a little too much too fast. Not anything like this where just a couple people drove that price up. So again, just psychologically maybe a bit of a stopping point. So maybe it's just time to sit and watch and see what happens, wait for a cold spell, and let that thing come back just a little bit. But it's been a nice run. The thing is just ripping for the most part. All right, couple real world stuff here, just to kind of get a feel for how is the real life economy going to affect people buying cardboard, pictures of guys on cardboard. So GDP, which is a metric that is really easily manipulated and not one to take tremendously seriously, but it is what it is what we've got here. It still continues to accelerate to the upside here. Projections for the next for the fourth quarter, which we'll get next year or whatever, increasing over what we just had over the last couple of weeks here. So looking about a 4% rise here. So as long as that's up, you had your collapse in 2020, but as long as that keeps rising, then the machines and the algos, when they can't look under the hood and say, that's bull. They just can see that headline number and kind of play off of that. Unemployment sitting at kind of a historical low, going back at least the last 40 years for the most part here. Massive spike here, and that was manipulated. That was governments forcing people to shut down. Of course, people are going to get laid off. Now you have a lot of people that are exiting the workforce here, so that GDP number is quite low. If you added the 10 million people that were in the workforce and they've come out, then this number would be much higher. But as it is, kind of a low area, and this is where it does tend to reverse, and these shaded lines are recession for the most part here. So you can see that we've got an inverted yield curve, which does predict recessions. And so we could have one going into next year. Again, the GDP is manipulated to the point where we're already likely in recession for the most part. But because of the way that they're able to massage those numbers, technically we had 2 negative quarters, right? But now they're showing positive growth and maybe out of it, which I'm not buying at all, but it is what it is. So those numbers have to go negative on an official basis to really get the recession. But this has been a pretty good predictor of recession for the most part, going back to the tech crash, the financial crisis, 2020, and here we are again. You can even go back to 1990, where it had the 91 recession overall. So, all right, they might not be able to, before the election, they would talk, say, hey, not a recession. Now that, the elections are done next year, they may just be, okay with saying, okay, fine, recession. So yields hitting that 4% area and kind of stopping that. This is one of many potential stopping points here. So very, very overbought, which hasn't really happened in the history of the yield market for the most part. So pretty darn extended overall, starting to come off, which is a welcome sign for investors for the most part. Big key to that was the dollar, which has had a massive drop from the top of its range here, coming up on some support here. So we'll see if dollar starts to stabilize just a little bit here, but it is again massively overbought and starting to roll over just a little bit. So as that dollar decreases in price, and then that raises the price for other commodities, everything else you buy, and that includes dudes on cardboard. So mortgage, 30-year mortgage, kind of going along with interest rates. Again, this was kind of a logical stopping point and starting to come off just a little bit here. So if we get very overbought, if we get some rate cuts or anything like that, then these rates, you could see them sub 5 again, maybe by next year at some point. So 2-3%, yeah, I'm not so sure, but sub 5, yeah, that could maybe happen. And if you're doing some sort of, depends on how much you put down, and if you're doing a shorter term or something like that, then you could see, 3.5 or whatever. So gasoline returning to the scene of the crime as well. So this was support, and then there was resistance, and now it is support again. So again, sell signal and coming off. So prices at the pump come down a little bit. People are going to feel like they've got a little bit more money in their pocket and they can do some other things with. Bitcoin continues to travel lower. FTX blew up. It took everything with it. So again, that trend remains down, but it's at the bottom of its range here. And you can see that it's oversold and starting to perk up just a little bit here. So see if we can't get a bit of a pop. Not sure it's putting in much more than 25,000 or something like that, but 20,000 would be your first marker on that one here. But those risk assets can get going a little bit. Then I think people that again they'll feel a little bit more confident in spending money in other places here. Ethereum, same thing, bottom of the range. Look for a little bit of a pop perhaps out of that one, and I think that's what I've got for you. So all right, appreciate your time. Have a great rest of the weekend, and we will talk at you later. Bye now.